Hey everyone, J-Rod Plays here, and today I'm bringing you possibly my last video on the 450 grind, because there's not going to be a whole lot to talk about between now and Ash and Iron for the 450 itself. Just the last little bit of steps that people are taking now that are in striking distance to get to that 450 this week, because if you don't get it this week, then you only have a couple weeks until Ash and Iron launches, and you might as well just wait, because when Ash and Iron comes in, what you're going to see is that they're going to raise the cap to 500 for the soft cap, meaning that anything you do will get you power, and you don't have to worry about grinding again and again and again the same op to get to the point where you're getting a prime drop. Just to get that power increase, you can just play whatever you like. You can go back to playing, strikes. You can go back to playing pinnacle stuff. If they fix the Crucible rewards even more, Crucible might even be the best and most rewarding version of that, especially trials on the weekends. And so there'll be chances for those loot drops. And then once you get to the 500 to 550 grind, of course, everything at that point is supposed to be tier 5, and it's also supposed to go back to that. You have to get a prime to get from 500 to 550. So for people who are like myself that are already at 450, we only have to go and get those 50 light level or 50 power level, and then from there we'll be in that zone of where no matter what we do, we can go and sort of farm things that we actually need. In this case, the 450 importance early was so that we can get the tier 5 stuff now. Like you see, for example, me with my tier 5 mint retrograde god roll, like it's kind of a god roll, should I say, because it's got the elemental honing and bait and switch. I also like recycled energy as well for builds where I'm actually going to be manually reloading and stuff. And then I've got really nice Ahab char, really good weapon. It's got a lot of great possibilities to it as well. Unwavering duty, I actually have a couple of these unwavering duties, so that way I don't got to switch between characters. My Titan has one on him permanently too. So these are kind of the things that you get easily when you're 450. You can go into Crucible, you get tier 5 almost every time you do okay. Of course, if you're doing comp, you're going to have to win to get the better rewards. If you lose, you'll get okay rewards, but you won't get as good of rewards in comp. But everything else, even if you lose, you get good rewards, like trials, for example. So that was the whole point of trying to get to 450. And so now that we're talking about that, for people who are within striking distance, who have at least maybe hopefully seen my last video and saved up the Zavala of this week, where you have a primary sitting there, you have also 2 pieces of armor. Now all you need to get, if you're close to that 440 range and you have that a little bit of energy left until you knock out those last 10 levels, you should be able to do that this week and get your 450, so you have a couple of weeks to grind. And if anybody's just new and trying to learn and practice on how to grind in general, this video is going to help you cover which ops on the solo ops side are the best to grind and how to do so efficiently. One of the main things that I tell people to do whenever they're working on the ops is to bring up a counter like this click counter here, and it's just a rapid tables counter. You just Google, click counter, and it'll come up as your first option. And from here, you can track to see how far in you are, so you know when a drop is coming. And so if I'm on K1, for example, which we'll be starting with is K1, I want to run 9 really fast runs, so that way when I get to the 10th run, then I can take advantage of having a higher score if that does help it. For example, it's not required you can get a prime on a C score, so some people will just take the approach of running like 30 of them really fast and not even doing the bonus objective, getting the C score and getting their prime drop, because they don't want to mess with it. But if you get something easy like 15 ability kills or like 30-40 weapon kills, that's easy to do while you're just walking through to the boss. So those are the things that you pay attention to. But one thing that'll really save you a lot of time is to know what the drop rate is for you on this particular solo op that you've done, and then burn through up until you're about to get a drop, and then take your time and actually do the objective. And so that's one of the things that I would say is the big key, is to saving time. Obviously, if you see my prior videos, having all new gear on. If you have a featured exotic, make sure it's a new featured exotic, meaning you've gotten a new one from Rahul, you've got a new one from the 801 exchange. The older ones that were made before, I've seen people put them on and not get the boost, and then they delete it, or they'll buy a new one, and then they'll get the boost like they're expecting to get when they go to getting as low as 6 runs for a drop, for example. And people putting out videos refuting this have probably just done, like I said in my last video, put on the new gear in the middle of their drought cycle. There is a cycle to these drops. The drops are not always going to be 6 every run. Usually it'll extend over time until it gets like a large drought, and then you go back to normal drops. So for example, if we're looking at K1, it starts for 10 roughly with me, anywhere between 8 and 10. Those are the amount of times I have to run it until I get a drop. Then it'll go to 15, then it'll stretch to 20, and then maybe like 24 is, like I said, one of the longest droughts that I've been on the new gear. And then after I get that 24, then I'll get my 10 again. And it'll be like that for 3 or 4 more runs, and then so on and so forth. And so what will happen is a lot of YouTubers will hear somebody in their chat say, hey, put on this new gear. They'll go on like a long streak of 30 or 35, or they'll be stubborn and they'll have a 30 or 35 streak because they still have an old weapon or they still have a sword on. And, you know, they happen to catch the drought right when they put on their new gear, and they say, well, this new gear thing is a sham. It's a lie. I had a longer time without it. So that's actually not true. You know, again, that's something that they just didn't stick with it long enough. They ended up getting that prime on 35 and then switching back to their sword, which doesn't make any sense, because you would say, I got my prime, now let me test it properly and see if the next runs are shorter, but they didn't do that. So that's kind of the flaw with their thinking. So anybody saying like, oh, you know, the new gear thing doesn't work, my run was 20 or 30 with the new gear, well, they were in their drought and they didn't actually like listen to the advice and continue to run with new gear and then take advantage of that time, and they just extended their own time and their own grind. I know, for example, GSXR Clyde put out a video the other day saying that exact same thing. He's put out 2 videos saying that exact same thing, but the problem for him is that he's proven himself incorrect because he has taken longer to get to 450, even though he did it, than people who started after him. So I started like 2 or 3 days after Clyde put out a video talking about him starting the grind, and I beat him by like 4 days. I think I got it done on Friday, and I think he got it done on Monday. So I had all of Friday. I got it an early Friday, and so I had all of Friday, all of Saturday, all of Sunday, all of Monday before he actually got his grind done. So he extended his grind by 4 days or even more, because he didn't want to listen about the new gear, and that's fine. That's on him, but that's something that his disservice he's doing to his viewers by telling them that that's incorrect. The new gear does matter, and I believe it will matter again come Ash and Iron. So hopefully he will realize that, and he'll see examples of that on the internet and change his tune. But if not, whatever, it's his opinion. He has his right to his opinions. You know, he's actually pretty based on a lot of stuff. This is the only thing that I think I've seen for him recently that I can say, you know, I disagree, and he, you know, again, is doing a disservice to his fans by saying otherwise, but it is what it is. So getting into the actual solo op and how the card setups are, K1, again, is going to be your most efficient by far, even though it takes technically longer to get a drop on average in K1 than it does on Creation, which is one of my favorite ones to run. K1 is still the faster option because it's faster to power through when you're not doing the side objectives, so you can get to 10 runs quicker, and it also has a pretty frequent drop chance at that average of 10 to 12 average, roughly. And really, for me, it was 8 to 10, but from what I've seen, it's roughly 10 to 12 people talking about it online. So I may just get a little bit luckier on the K1 side, but still 10 to 12 is really good when you're getting like 2-minute runs, 3-minute runs if you're taking your time and getting some of the objectives. So the way I set up my card, as you can see, I'm 450, so it's going to be harder on me for score. There's no score accelerator this week, so this is a good time to go through this, because had I done the video last week with the score accelerator and with a lot of the solstice score bonus, this would have been incorrect now this week and would have been harder on people. So one of the things that throws people off a little bit is getting a higher score without making it too difficult. Whenever you're adding these bonuses, I would only add them if they're helpful to what you're doing at the moment. So for example, if I'm running Mint Retrograde, yes, I'm going to want strand damage because that's going to make the run faster for me. I can burn through bosses faster. If I have a little trouble with survivability, sure, I can add class healing. So for my hunter, for example, I'm running a void setup. I don't have any solar healing or anything. If I want to heal myself, I'm going to use that as well. And it does decrease a little bit my score. And then when I come into here, this is where I can make that score up. I can run no HUD if I'm familiar with my build and I don't need that help. You don't want to run no starting ammo because you're going to want Mint Retrograde ammo to speed through early on, so I'm going to leave this off. And then I always run Brawn because you get that nice bump in health, and everything then behaves like the Dreadnought did last season in Heresy when we were running the seasonal activity, and you were able to kill things to get your health back. In this case, you don't even have to pick up little pools in the ground, just kills will get your health back, and it's a nice bump to your score. So when people are adding these modifiers in, obviously the 20 modifiers are going to give you the biggest bump, and if you're okay dealing with Banes, Banes actually give you a rather large bump. So if you were going to run something like Threaded and Avalanche, Threaded is not that annoying. It's just these little threadlings that tick at you and they don't do a whole lot of damage, and the stasis crystals can slow you down, but not a big deal. You can actually add that there, and then I'm done. I'm at B+ already. If I didn't want to do that, me personally, I just usually run like things that aren't going to bother me much. So like Chill Touch, things don't really punch me, so that's fine. I'll run some type of a Hunger. If it's solar, especially if it's solar, I would love to run that because I'm always running my solar LMG. But let's say I run Strand Hunger, for example, and Chill Touch, and now I'm at B+. And if I really wanted to get to that halfway point, if you get to like B plus and a half, it'll turn to A if you're really trying to get to A. So you can run something that'll bump it up close to your level, like Arc Threat, or if you're comfortable, you can run Blasts. And so now I've got a good B plus. I'm fine with the combatant splash damage increase. I'm fine with these two things. And then I've got a 440 power. If this was you and you were lower and you're like at 420, you're going to want it to be either at 420 or 410. You want it to be at your level. You don't really want to run under level because that can slow you down. If you're fine running under level, so be it, but don't slow yourself down too much. And if you don't want to deal with any of these things, if you don't have anything to set up the hunger, because again, hungers are a benefit to you, not a some type of reduction. Yes, they slow your energy generation down, but if you're doing a lot of damage with whatever that build is, it's actually going to be a accelerator for your abilities. So your abilities are going to be juiced up. So for me, I'm running an Invis build. If I do a lot of damage with my Mint Retrograde, I can have infinite invisibility even more than I already do with my build. My build's already designed that way. But if I wanted to speed it up, or if I wanted to get a bunch of ability kills with like smoke bombs, I can just layer a whole area with smoke bombs and let a bunch of thrall run through, for example, and get my 15 ability kills in a few seconds, and then I'm on to the boss. So that's kind of how I set up the card. I try to set it up at light or below light, and I never run anything above light. But the keys are obviously no HUD and Brawn. Those are the keys. You're always going to have locked loadout. That's just the biggest challenge multiplier, and you're going to want to always run those. And this way you're B+, so that way when you are B+, and you're running this, you're going to always get your bonus drop if it's there, but you're always going to get your completion reward. And this is good for your cores, because by the time you get to 450, you're going to need a lot of cores. I had almost 1 million cores when I reached 450, and then I just went over to my Titan and my Hunter, and I started setting up a couple of builds. And between like 4 builds, I was back down to like 100,000 cores. So I've been having to save up cores from stuff I've been deleting while farming other things, and I'm still only at 220,000 with more stuff to come here in a couple weeks. So definitely be mindful of your cores. Don't just run through them without the B+ like some people do just for speed, because then you're not going to get a higher item to drop more cores. You're going to have less cores, and you're going to have a little bit more of a time sink and struggle later on to farm cores, which is way more monotonous than getting progress and cores at the same time. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to show you the runs for both K1 with the Hive, and then I'll show you as well what it looks like with the Fallen, because they're both fast. They're both quick. Obviously Hive is a lot quicker, but with the Fallen it's going to be just as quick. So touching down, you're going to see where you're going to be heading to for the Hive Gunk, and I'm using Mint Retrograde, but you can use any rocket pistol. What I'm doing is I'm using the 3-round burst and firing bottom, middle, top, and this is the run that I'm going to be speeding through so that I can get to the run where I'm actually doing whatever the objective is. And so my goal is to knock out all 4 of these as fast as possible, and as you can see, I'm just a few seconds in the run. I'm on my skimmer, I'm running along to the outside. You can also do this with a Sparrow. You can Sparrow fly, or you can just run through the middle. It just makes a few seconds difference, but the skimmer will save you some time because you can go through the outside door. I also jump off my skimmer here and hop back on it so that it straightens me out at the bottom so that I can get back on it and speed through the hole, drop down, and then speed through here. If you stay on your skimmer and you're burning through this, you can actually go into your slide mode and you can grind all the way through the middle, so you don't have to go around the outside. That'll save you a few seconds. And then I'm just going to hop up and run across, and I'm just going to run through this pit. You don't have to worry about killing anything unless you're just getting a last few ability kills, since you're already getting your ability kills as you're going through. And now you're going to be also looking for any of the boxes for ammo. Try to pick up your heavy ammo, especially because that's going to be the weapon I'm going to be used for boss killing for the most part. If I got any ammo for my special, I would have picked that up too, because I have Mint Retrograde, so I'm going to use that for boss damage if I don't get heavy. So it's either or, but just keep an eye out as you're running through that pit area. You can look down your scope and you can see where the ammo boxes are. Now, if you notice, I have my back to this wall and I stand here. Reason being is because standing in this spot, you'll see there, can somehow speed up or generate that Hive Gunk pool that you can use to lower the boss's shield faster. I guess if the boss is active and trying to attack you, it won't generate that pool, and so the boss kind of like delays the fight a little bit by doing so. When you hide in that area that I'm hiding, that wall there where the door is, the boss doesn't attack you. It'll actually actively go away from you and it won't be able to attack you, and then that makes it, I guess, so that the fight progresses quicker, so I don't have to worry about, in this case, any kind of issue where the boss is trying to chase me around and stuff like that. And so now that I've gotten that to spawn, that Hive Gunk, which will sometimes instantly spawn, by the way, I go and I use the enemies there to ramp up my Onslaught and my Rampage, and I burn through the boss's health really fast. And then boom, I'm done with the run. Run was 2 minutes and 23 seconds. It could have been a little quicker, but that's about what your average run will be if you're just burning through and speeding through. So for me, as I'm using my strategy to speed through, we're looking about 18 minutes, 20 minutes to get to the 9 runs, and then from there now I'm hunting for primes at that point over the next 5 runs, and those runs will be 3 or 4 minutes if I'm going really slow, 3 minutes on average, and that's money right there. That's an easy way to get your primes, and that's why K1 is the best. Now on a fallen day, it can be just as quick on the early part. It's going to be slightly slower just because you have to stand and activate the shields, the device, should I say, that deactivates the shields. But the great thing about it is that there's a bug until they fix it that you can walk right up to the shield generator and you can punch through the shield generator's defenses, and it'll deactivate the little orb shield around the console that you use to deactivate the barrier. And then you can pick up ammo from inside of there. There's usually special or heavy ammo inside of each of the barriers. And so on my hunter, I was running invis. I would just punch through and then go invis, pick up the ammo that I had, and then deactivate the barrier without anything harassing me. On your other classes, you can kill a couple things around it, or you can just ignore it and tank the damage for the most part. Another good thing about this run is that if it's on Fallen Day, you can take advantage of the fact that there's vehicles. There's a bunch of dregs out there on their pikes trying to kill you while you're doing this. So, you can take out a couple of those as you're doing your quick runs, and you can also get the challenge done. There's a weekly challenge, I think it was last week, that there was to kill boss vehicles or vehicles, and that'll be something that you can use while you're farming. You can get that done as well and get that extra bright dust and get that goal towards the full bright dust now that they've lowered the amount needed to get the bright dust this season, because they had actually, and I thought that we were going to have to do all the way through the end of Ash and Iron to get the big pile of bright dust, but they said that was a mistake and they doubled it accidentally. So now we only need like 5 or 6 challenges if you've been doing your challenges to get the additional bright dust. So same strategy as you can see here. I've punched through the shields. I got my ammo, so I have ammo for my special and I have ammo for my heavy. I'm skating across like normal. I'm going to take advantage of my invis the whole time and just run through stuff so that it doesn't harass me. I'm going to check for ammo if I don't have any ammo by looking through my scope, and ammo will pop up on the sides of my screen in the direction that it's in. And then from here, I'm going to be able to have a free run to the boss, which is the new style of Fallen that has, I think they're called Corsairs. They have the flying pack on them. From there, you can just ramp up your damage on your heavy and get him to the point where he's immune. And then what I do is I'll stand on the inside to keep him attacking me and delaying the spawn of the champion that's going to spawn here. There's going to be a barrier champ, so you want to make sure you have a way to handle barrier champs. I just happen to punch through them real fast with my LMG, but I also have a way to break the shield if I need to. And so I break the shield if I need to. I pick up the orb, and I try to throw the orb at his feet, because if you try to hit him with it and you miss, then you have to sit and wait for another one to spawn. And I feel like it happened here. I feel like I had a situation where I threw it at him, and it still didn't hit him. Ideally, you want him to be trapped up against this wall here where we're running into, so that you can just throw it against the wall, and he'll get hit every single time. But if he gets out and free, he'll duck around left and right, and he'll do a good job of trying to dodge that orb. And so here I'm going to try to ramp up again as the barrier has spawned, take it out, and I think this is where I miss him. I throw it at his feet and it just didn't take his shield out, and so unfortunate. So this is what I meant, like instead of being done with 7 minutes on the clock, that's like a 2.5 minute run. Now this is going to be closer to like a 3.5 minute run, because the barrier does take its time to spawn. I'm waiting for it here. So same thing, pop a shield, do a little bit of extra damage, and then take the rest of his health. And so now you've seen how both are doable, and they're both very similar. The Hive Gunk being the easiest one, because you can just blast it as you're flying through on your Sparrow or on your Skimmer. And if you're doing the Fallen one, you can take advantage of just running up to the barriers, not having to kill the champions and have them run away from you or anything. You just go, you punch through the shield and lower the shield, activate the console, and then boom, speed to the next one, and then you're free. So that's the best, for me, the best option when it comes to speed farming. It's something that you can do over and over and over again, and you can just never leave K1. K1 is definitely the place to go. Obviously, Caldera is a close second when it comes to speed, but now we're going to get into creation and why creation is the real second option, and again, how ease of use it is going forward. Now we're on to creation. So for the card on creation, same thing as the last time. If you really want to bump it up, you can add some Banes. Personally, again, I look for what's useful for me. Strand damage is really the only thing that's useful in this case. And I can do class healing as well since I'm on my Titan on this one. And from there you have Strand and no HUD. Brawn, again, I always like using Brawn. And then again, enemies aren't going to really hit me. I don't mind taking more splash damage. And so that's enough for me. I can stop right there. And I'm going to go ahead and launch so you can see kind of where I'm at on the score once everything is done. And again, flying in, one thing that to keep in note is our scores might be slightly different because I'm wearing, again, all new gear. Even though the Active War Rig is a featured piece, I got a new version of it. So it counts as new gear, so I'm going to have a higher multiplier than some people. So if you find that your score is a little low, it's maybe because you're running an old piece or a sword. And so what you want to do is check real fast to see if there's heavy sitting on the ground here, because heavy is going to be like your best way to clear out groups. And I'm going to save that heavy for later though, because I'm going to use that to kill the boss. And the plates, they're going to continually spawn. They've actually sped up the plate timing. As long as you kill the enemies quickly, the plates will speed up for you. They used to take a little bit longer where you didn't really get a chance to stay active. You would like sit and wait for enemy spawns. But as long as you're clearing out the enemy spawns rather quickly, you're going to actually get the plate already at 50%, as you can see here. And you don't got to do the little ghost thing. It's 3 seconds no matter what. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So it's not a matter of having your ghost out. Some people said that the ghost made a difference, but it was an old Inside Terminus thing, I think, that people were saying was still a thing, and they didn't actually test it. So the ghost doesn't make a difference in this case. But like I said, sometimes there's a ammo crate up here, an ammo crate here. Right now, I can't see that there is anyone around, so I'm just going to pick up all that heavy that dropped and allow that to be my boss killing heavy. And this week with the special ammo generation, there'll be plenty of special ammo. And oh, there is a crate up there if I wanted to get one, but I've got plenty of heavy here, so I'm not going to. But the reason why the special ammo is important is because the Mint Retrograde is really great at popping these crystals. Any other rocket pistol will do too. You can also use a scout. On my other characters, I was using a scout and just hanging out up top. You can ignore the champions. I was testing to see if there was like something similar to old Grandmasters where if you killed all the champs, you got a bonus, or you got additional prime loot drop chance, and I never really saw any difference. And so you can either stand up here and you can do like I'm doing here, and you can take these out really fast. The ones that you can reach, that's about as far as you can reach, and then jump down. Or if you're good at like jumping and firing at the same time, you can actually jump down and just shoot these things on the way down. All it takes is one hit from the Mint Retrograde to pop these. So you can actually spray across 3 of them and knock out 2 or 3 at a time with a good aim. As you can see, it just took me a couple seconds and I'm already through. Just ignoring the champions, no problem. Bonus objective is already done, and that's a reason why creation is so strong, is that the bonus objective is just to kill enemies. And even if it's like 40 or 50 enemies, you're going to be doing 2 plates, the initial plate and then the plate with the boss. And by the time you get done with those 2 plates, you're going to be done with your bonus objective. So you don't have to worry about getting precision shots. You can run any weapon that you want. You can basically run any build that you want, so you don't have to worry about having ability kills, some type of an ability kill ways. You can run double heals or some type of protective build. That's one of the major things that creation does for people, is it simplifies things so they can run anything they want. And of course, as long as it's new gear, because that's going to be your best boost for your prime drops. Of course, if you're a free-to-play player, you're going to have a little longer runs because you don't have the prime drop in your season pass, but this will still help. It's just not going to be as beneficial in stacking as it would be if you were a paid player. And so there I've already cooked the boss, and he's already gone. And now you start the process up so that all the enemies spawn, and you just start taking them out. What I like to do is I like to let some of the bigger enemies spawn, like that wyvern, and then get a couple kills to ramp up my damage so I can cook the wyvern real fast. And then save these guys so that I can build up my radiant so that I can shoot through these barriers and take out these snipers so they're not lobbing grenades at me. As you can see, I even cooked through that champion like it was nothing because of the ramp up of the Rampage and Onslaught together. Killing Tally would have also done a similar effect on that. And same thing, I'm ramping up my Radiant. I have my 13 seconds, and I can shoot right through. And now I'm pretty much home free. Now I just gotta wait for the boss to spawn. And I have a choice. I can either kill the boss with my weapon, which might be slightly faster, or I can burn the boss with my super. If you were like on a Solstice Day, for example, there was like a cast your super so many times, so I would just come down here, and I would pop my super right about here, and then just cook the boss with my super. And that's that. And again, it would have been slightly faster if I killed him with the machine gun, but I got the bonus rewards, as you can see there. My score gets pretty high. It's probably a high B+, but sometimes it goes into A. Like if I would have added maybe one more objective, I would have been an A score, since I don't have the accelerator this week, but last week would have been an A score. And it was like a 5-minute, 15-second run, so if I'm doing this 6 times, again, you're looking at 30 minutes per drop for the first couple of hours, and then it'll go to another hour, one drop per hour, and then 1 drop per every 2 hours. And then at that point, I'm in my drought. So at that point, I would switch off creation and go back to K1 or Caldera to break up the monotony, get out my 24 runs, and then come back to creation, or stick with the K1 until I get my 10 drop, and then come to creation. And that's how I would do it from there. All right, so for setting up the card on Caldera, it's going to be very similar. Again, we're going to go with a no HUD. In this case, we can go no starting ammo if we'd like to. For now, I'm just going to leave that off because, again, it's just for example. So we're going to go Brawn, do the strand damage for the Mint Retrograde if I'm running that. And then we're going to do the same modifiers that we were doing before. I don't really get hit by a lot, so we're going to do Chill Touch. Splash damage is fine with me, and that'll put us where we need to be. So Chill Touch, Splash damage. This is set. This is set. I don't need to add anything else. I'm ready mid B+. And then from there, we'll start the run. Now, while flying into Caldera, a couple things I wanted to touch on is that this is going to be a falling day. And so for the falling day, it's really easy. You just run to the first 2 depots. You set them up. The little shank will keep exploding enemies as it gets to the enemies, and then it'll move the objective forward so you can save some time on that. The great thing that you can do in this case is if you need any kind of combatant kills, you can just mow through them. If you do your little heavy attack and then your light attack, you'll jolt things, so it'll actually jolt them as you're going. And I only have 10 ability kills, so I can do that too while we're doing this run, and just show you kind of a fast run with the actual B+ score. And so from here, since I'm on my Titan, we're just going to do some punches. And those are going to be how we'll do the ability kills, and then enemies will probably run themselves into my my hammer. Whenever I do launch a hammer, you'll see like here, this drag here, they'll run themselves into the fire, and you'll get extra ability kills like that. And now if I were doing a normal run, and this was going to be my normal, like I'm speeding through here, I'd already been gone. I've already been at the second depot, and I'd already be queuing up the shank so that the shank will reach that second depot. Because again, you don't have to really babysit the first 2 shanks. The only one that I recommend babysitting at all is going to be that final shank. So you just run up here, you hit sabotage, and then you can just take off from there to the 3rd one. In this case, I'm getting my ability kills real fast. Now, with the overloads here, you can actually stun them with the Matter Spark, so that's why I really enjoy having the Matter Spark, as well as the Matter Spark replaces the sword, so there's no need for a sword, because you can just zoom around with the Matter Spark. And you can also pretty much kill all the enemies, too, if you don't ever want to leave Matter Spark after you've already queued up the little guy. All you got to do is just stay in Matter Spark form, and you can explode once you build up the explosion. That'll also take out large groups of enemies. And so there, I've babysit him all the way through. He blows it up. Trip mine's going to disappear. And that's it. That's pretty much the set for the very beginning. You could even come and wait here after you've queued up all three. Like, say you're watching a show or whatever, you're watching YouTube videos like I was while you're farming. You just queue up all three, kill the champs so that they're not harassing you, and then sit and wait at the barrier there until the third shank actually decides that it wants to blow up the proper section. Now, something that I learned initially while I was just running through here is I can turn back into Matter Spark here and just zoom through with a couple of bursts. And also, too, you can save sometimes. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, by jumping off the ledge here and dying. Whenever you do that, if you've already done your objective and you don't need any of the enemies here, it should put you up on the ledge by the boss. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it'll stick you back here. So what I would have done is I would have died here, and then it would have put me up here around the corner. And usually it'll put you like in a group of enemies. So it'll be these guys that you see here just spawning, and they'll be hopping down from the top here. And you'll end up right here after you respawn. It didn't happen for me, but it's okay. Next thing you want to try and do is you want to try to trap these guys up here. So I'm going to try my best to keep them from running away from each other. As soon as he shields up, I'm going to turn and try to attack this one. I'm going to do the same thing back this way over here. And there we go. Now, if he ever does get away from you, this guy, he'll respawn right over there. Just go ahead and sit and wait for him once you kill that first one. But as you can see, it's a really fast run, even with getting my ability kills and not getting the additional time that you get by killing yourself and getting here. I was able to get the reward that I needed. I got additional Crucible bonus drops. I got my A ranking in this case. I got just to A, just barely enough to get to A. And that's it. That's the Caldera run. What was that? 3 minutes and 17 seconds, taking my time. So it could have been definitely sub 3 minutes. And that's what my kind of daily Caldera run is. If I want to break up the K1 and creation grind, this would be the next best one for me. So touching down on the Vex Day on Caldera, it's the same concept. If you have a objective that you're doing, you want to start out with that. So I'm going to go to a concentrated area if I'm doing the objective. If not, I'm just going to run past everything, and I'm going to start to attack the cubes. Now, the footage that I have was from before the fix, so you can actually see in the footage when I was running my Barrow Dyad, that was generating, as well as the artifact, any kind of tangle. So it was like it's an elemental generation on the artifact, and I also have kills with the Barrow Dyad generating. So anytime I was able to kill something with the strand, it was going to give me a tangle that I could then use to blow up the crates without having to go through the problem of going around and getting all the cubes. Although in this case, the cubes are not too bad as far as location wise. On this one, this is the one that I'm on right now. Annoying one is the cube is in a little cave on the other side here. So instead I just picked up my tangle and I popped it, but I'm still getting weapon kills, so I still would have time wise been about the same had I not had to do the weapon kills. So again, it's still a fast run, and it's actually technically easier. Like, the bosses do less damage to you. So if you're early on in your 400 grind and you're running a little low on the power to, like your power level to the power card ratio, then the Vex Day is going to be a little easier on you because the enemies don't do as much damage. And again, I'm using the tangle here, but if I just turned around in that cave there, I can shoot the cube and do the same exact thing. You shoot the cube, and then you shoot the dark matter rounds in the explosives that are behind me, and from there you move on. So the reason that I'm out of Miter Spark a lot in this run is because I'm doing 45 weapon takedowns, and this was back when I was testing to see if the high B plus A ranking was a factor in getting drops, and it's really not the biggest factor in getting drops. In my opinion, based on what I've seen, getting that B plus is probably the sweet spot, because I didn't see a major difference in getting A over B plus. And the C, even though getting C's was a lower frequency of drops, the C runs are faster. So you can theoretically say, well, hey, I'm going to run a bunch of C runs. Even though it's like 10 extra C runs, it's still roughly the same time, and I don't have to hassle with going through any of the requirements to getting the B plus A rankings. Now, if you see there, the great thing about Matter Spark on Vex Days is the little detain bots, those detain drones, can't detain you when you're in Matter Spark. And if you're getting detained, you can just go into Matter Spark and you can pop out of the detain just fine. Just make sure when you pop out of Matterspark, you're away from the detain bubble, or you'll get sucked back into the detain bubble and have to go back into Matterspark again or destroy the detain bubble to get out. Also, keep in mind, whenever you're doing these runs, if you got a bunch of enemies attacking you, you can just blow up the rounds on the third objective and all the enemies will despawn. So that's something too to keep in mind, that you can just wade through a bunch of enemies even if you're low health, kill the boxes, the dark matter rounds, explode them, and enemies despawn. Also in this run, I wasn't as used to the run and what I can do in certain areas, so I ran through on foot into the train. I still recommend going into Matterspark, and I recommend going and doing the Matterspark boost all the way through the train to save you a couple of seconds if you're really trying to shave down time without a sword. Because, I mean, that's the reason why people run with a sword, is to really shave down time. But on Caldera, you don't necessarily need a sword if you have your Matterspark, because the Matterspark will simulate that speed boost around the map, and it's not the same level as some of the sword or some of the skate tech, but it's still fast, and you can still run, grapple if you want to run grapple and grapple around with a sword and things like that to speed up your time. But in the end, it's whatever you're comfortable with. Not everybody's going to have a eager edge sword if you're starting fresh, or if you haven't been around and you just didn't get an eager edge sword. So this is why I run these without the sword, to show people, hey, you don't even need the sword. I did all of my grind without a sword, and so it maybe cost me an extra 1 day of time, I guess. And that's a day that I could have gotten back, or if I hadn't got unlucky, or I could have gotten unlucky, who knows how that really would have turned out. But in the end, I was determined to do it without a sword, because I wanted to show that for people that are newer, you don't need a sword. And again, what I'm doing here is taking advantage of the speed of the Matterspark to go around and clear out the detain bots, and then I'm destroying the little bubbles that are the boxes that you need to destroy to get the boss to progress to his next phase. Another way you can tell where the boxes are, if you look up at the boss, you'll see those little lines that come off of him that connect to those boxes to tell you exactly where they go. I prefer to go on the right side of the arena, if you're looking the direction I'm looking at now, where the hole in the ground is, and wait there, because the two most annoying boxes to blow up for me are the ones that are in the ground, like off the map, and the one that's in that little cave. So what I'll do is I'll push this boss into his next phase, and as you can see, I'm taking advantage of the Matterspark to get out of the detain bubble, and I'm going to go and wait and see where they're at back here. So if I'm closer to that one there, normally I would be looking straight down as I got more practice with this, and be ready to take that out to save me a few seconds of having to hunt it down, and then I'm done with that. Now, usually if you're running a Solar Hunger, or if you're running something that's got good ability generation, you have a super at this point, so you can actually pop your super here. This was before I actually switched to all new gear, so this is my Getaway Artist build that I'm doing, and I would just get ready for him with a linear. So for somebody who asked me recently, asked me a question on what would you recommend if you weren't running all new gear, this is the Getaway Artist build that I run on Prismatic, and it's really strong. It heals you as you go because of the Devour ability kills you're getting with the Getaway Artist, and it's a really good way to kind of speed through things even in your ball, and your ball will still allow you to have your arc buddy running around killing stuff. So that's a good alternative build for Caldera. Now, I got a question on my comments about Skywatch. Somebody was mentioning how they thought that the Hive Day Skywatch wasn't too bad, and they were right. It's actually not too bad. It's similar to Creation in the time. It's about 5-minute runs, 5 to 6 minute runs. But when you're comparing it to Creation, it's going to have differences in the additional bonus that can slow you down. So like sometimes precision kills, people don't like to do the precision kills, especially against Thrall, who are running around ducking their heads and stuff, getting themselves shot in the body instead of the head. Ability kills are really easy. You saw there, I actually did 8 of the ability kills in just one smoke. And in this run, I actually forget to get my other ability kills, because that's how so much I took it for granted, should I say. And the thing about these runs is that if you are stalled at this point, this can cost you a lot of time, because these enemies here in this location are going to hide around corners, and unless you're standing out in the open, like unless you go stand up there on that platform or try to wait in a place where they'll funnel themselves down to you, the Thrall will just hide behind these little pieces of metal here, and so will the Acolytes. So sometimes you're just there sitting and waiting, and then you're checking like nothing's coming out, and then you go to leave the arena because you're like, okay, I'm done, and then the wall is still there, and so that can waylay you like 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds, however long it takes you to realize, oh, you know, everything is not dead, and vice versa. You could be sitting there waiting for stuff to spawn and everything is already dead and you could have gone. So that's one of the things that I'm not a fan of the Skywatch when it comes to running this over and over again. But like I said in my last video, it's good to like hop from place to place, from op to op between drops sometimes, to keep yourself from getting so bored of just doing the same thing over and over and over again. You're already going to be doing solo ops over and over and over again. So if you can vary the experience even by a little bit, even going from creation to Skywatch to K1 to Caldera back to Skywatch in a day, and you're not having to focus on anything specific for an event like we did with Solstice, then it's fine. Like, that's something that you do to switch it up, and that's a good piece of advice, is to switch it up. And it's a fine op. I mean, it's not the most effective op. Like we talked about K1 being the most effective op when it comes to time, investment, and runs. It's not the most easy and straightforward one like creation with the best drop chance, because that one has the lowest run per drop for me, at least, than all the other ops. But it's kind of in the middle, and since I didn't run it enough to really tell where the drop rate was, I would venture a guess that this is probably very similar in drop rate to maybe something like K1, so maybe like 10 to 12 runs of this. But if you're comparing that to creation, which will drop in 6 to 8 runs, and then again 8 to 10 when you're further along in the cycle, 10 to 15, this one's starting out in the 10 range and then extending into the high 20s is not efficient as it could be. And again, the crystals are easy to destroy if you have a machine gun like I have, or if you have a linear, anything that's going to pop them really quickly. Mint retrograde will pop them really quickly. The boss doesn't have a whole lot of health. He can actually be burned down really fast with a quick super at the end. That's what I tend to do on my Titan when I'm here, is I'll pop my super and I'll kill the boss. If this boss works like the other bosses too, you can also, on your Titan, get your Roaring Flames up using the Acolytes, and then pop your super with Roaring Flames, and then throw a hammer, creating the Sunspot, popping the boss's shield, and killing him before even the crystals pop up. So you can get this run down to maybe like a 4-minute run, maybe even a sub 4-minute run. So it's not terrible on Hive Day. Hive Day is the day to do it on. The Fallen Day is a different story, because the Fallen Day, you have to sit and wait for the little boxes to disappear in those zones. So I don't recommend doing it on a Fallen Day, but on a Hive Day, knock yourself out. Not a bad run. As you can see here, I cleared the run in 3 minutes and 56 seconds there with the crystals. So it could be a lot faster, and it could have been a little bit better executed once I got used to it and I run it more often. But Skywatch isn't bad. So Skywatch is something that's on the menu, and I would say that's a good one. And for the card, again, Surprise is pretty much the same thing. I would throw on Brawn. I would do no HUD if I didn't need to worry about the HUD. I would probably not do Chill Touch because of the Thrall. They can get in there, so maybe like the splash damage increase, and then maybe you can do like the counterfeit, stuff on the ground. You can do, if you're using a solar weapon, the Solar Shanks stuff, but of course it's not going to be that on Hive Day. So right now, today, obviously it's telling me that it is a Fallen Day. And so I would do whatever that extra objective is for the Hive, like the Exploder units have a little more health or something like that, no problem. I would definitely do a Hunger if there was a Solar Hunger. You can also do Strand Hunger if you're running a Strand build, or if you're using the Mint Retrograde because it's special week. And then, of course, when you're down here, you want to run Strand if you're using the Mint Retrograde. You can definitely do these additional modifiers. I would stick away from the Grapple one because of how much it tanks your score. But, it's fun to fly around. So if you really want to like counter this, for example, with something like a Bane, and you can handle the Bane, as you can see, I'm at 450 of 450, but I'm still getting where I need to get to High B plus A rank. So that's what I would do if I was trying to run this regularly, still on my grind. So now for the Salt Mines, this is the one that I don't recommend running just because of the time that it takes, and it delays you, as you'll see as I'm running through this in different sections. So the most bearable day is going to be the Taken Day, because you can destroy the Taken bubbles pretty quickly, and the delay waiting for the Taken orbs that block your entrance into the next area is not too long. But if it's like a Dread Day, I would definitely skip the Dread Day. Yes, they're not shielded in the same way as the Cabal boss is at the end of this one, but the difference being is that whenever you're doing the dread, the little smaller dreads that are essentially like upgraded scions, they will run away and they will hide, and they will sometimes not even spawn. They'll stay in the back area where you have to go, and they'll spawn like kind of behind like a closed area and not come out. And it really does delay you sometimes, and you can get stuck in there waiting for like a whole minute for the area to let you through to the next zone, even after you've killed everything. It is one of the cooler looking solo ops, though, having the little yellow beams coming out of the walls, like the rogue beams coming out of the walls, and challenging you not to get to the ×10 or you'll die to the 10 stack. But it's just annoying how they made the speed spawn of the enemies. If they found a way to fix the speed spawn, kind of like they did creations plates time, that would be a lot better, because then they could speed up the amount of dread. And they only spawn like 2 or 3 at a time, so it's not like you can't really handle them. The enemy density is not crazy. So that's one thing that I would say that if I could change, I would definitely change the speed spawn timer of the dread one, and that would be something that would make it viable, because that one's a little easier to kill the boss if you're not on your Titan. So here, what I'm doing is I'm kind of brute forcing the champion here. Normally you would need something that's going to cause like some type of an ignition, something to stop us, like a suspend, for example, the unstoppables here. But because I'm running my onslaught and my rampage, I can ramp that up to where the damage is so high that I just chew through the unstoppable shield when it's not stunned. And so that's an option that you have if you don't want to run something with unstoppable on it. If you don't have like a mint retrograde and you happen to be running a rocket pistol, of course your rocket pistol, if you hold it long enough, will load unstoppable rounds and it'll stun them just fine. Now what I'm doing with my build here, this is my hunter that I'm running it on, I'm just going to invis through everything. The ability takedowns are easy to get. Again, all I got to do is just hit a couple of really easy to kill creatures with a smoke bomb and let them cook out and get my 10 ability kills. And that's one of the good things that I've seen with the salt mines, is that the requirements are not too high. Like you're not having to get like 40 weapon takedowns or 40 precision kills. It's such a quick, theoretical quick run, but there's just too much gating. There's too much stopping you from going from place to place in order to get to the next area to make this seem like a long lost sector op, but it's really just them making you wait. Because again, all of this is not necessary. If I could just run through all this invisible to the boss, then this would actually be a pretty viable run, because I could just destroy that bubble, and if as soon as you destroyed that bubble you didn't have to wait for these enemies to spawn, and then you could run to the final section, then that would be great, because this would be like another 3-minute run, way to break up the monotony on the grind. But because not only do I have to destroy this bubble in here, I have to sit and wait for all the ads to spawn on my right, in the middle I have to wait for the ogre to spawn, and then even after the ogre spawns you have to sit and wait a couple seconds for the hive orb behind us to disappear, so that we can go into the portal and teleport to the cliffside where we ended up having the boss fight. And so there's finally the ogre. So you just got to clear up all the enemies, including the little guys. And then finally it'll recognize this as objective complete, and it'll show that we need to move to the next section. And there's the portal. And so here's where the difference between a normal class like Warlock and Hunter have to deal with, and a Titan. With his Taken Cabal, once you do enough damage to him, he's going to shield up and run down, and then you're going to have to destroy a bubble. Not too big of a deal when you're on a good build that has like a lot of burst damage, because you just run into the bubble and you ramp up your weapon, for example, like mine, and I can burn through that real fast. It's going to give us a zone to pop a shield, and then you pop the shield and you do damage until the next bubble comes up. From there, you're going to follow him down. There's going to be a further bubble. The first one could be further to the right, so keep in mind if it's not where mine was, the bubbles can spawn in different spots, and sometimes they take a while to spawn. As you can see there, it took a second to spawn, and once you've burned through this one, not a huge time save when you can see that. Like, it took me like under 30 seconds to kill the boss, whereas a Titan would have killed him in 5 or 6 seconds, because of the Roaring Flames thing. So you save yourself a whole 20 seconds, 25 seconds. Not a huge deal. Yeah, it adds up over time, but still a 5-minute run. So if you're getting sick of all the other ones, no matter what, as long as you're doing this on a taken day, you can run and do this over and over again, and it'll be a nice way to break up the monotony. But again, I don't recommend salt mines just because of that delay, and sometimes enemies hiding and stuff like that will keep you from progressing. All right, and so we've reached the final one here, which is going to be the Conflux. I don't recommend this one, only because the Conflux itself takes way too long for the objectives to complete. There's going to be your Vex and your Taken objectives, and with the Vex you have to sit and wait and defeat enemies on their way to the Spires as they're trying to integrate with the Spires. And on the Taken ones, you just have to kill a enemy grouping that comes up until you get to the point where you have two enemies that are shielded off of each other. Attacking one will force the other one to shield up and vice versa. So you just go back and forth attacking the non-shielded version until they die one at a time. And those are kind of delaying you from moving forward. So once you get to the final area, you have to then wait and try to reach these objectives. These objectives that they give you are like kill 70 enemies, these really high numbers, a lot of specific kills compared to some of the other ones that are much easier. So if you were going to set this up, again, you can just run a quick Bane to get yourself up there. If you didn't want to run the Banes, again, this is an easy one because there's not going to be a lot that reaches you. You can again run splash damage because it's not a big deal. You can run one of the Hungers, so that way you boost up your speed of your generation by running that element, and then of course running Brawn. And you can run whatever you like here, or you can go with none. I'm already halfway through, and this should take me to a high B+ or an A every time. But again, I don't recommend using Conflux unless you're super bored and you're like, I have to run something other than any of the 5 things that I've already been running. But just a quick recap, again, K1, this one here was going to be my 10 drop average, and this is going to be the fastest, most efficient run. You're going to run this as much as you can stand it. Once you get tired of K1, creation is the next option. This one is straightforward. You don't have to worry about doing the bonus objective. It'll get completed as you're going along through it on its own. And this one was anywhere between 6 and 8 on my fastest, and then it will go again 10 to 15, and then from there, once I got kind of past that 15 mark, and I know I'm at like 15, as soon as I get my 15 drop, I move over to something faster like Caldera or K1. Caldera was around 8 to 10 on my drops on average. I would say that this was probably my third favorite for sure between K1 because of just having to get tired of the Matter Spark bubble and the sounds, and you really have to use the Matter Spark to traverse to make things faster if you're not using a sword, whereas these are a lot shorter and more compact as far as the K1 and creation. You don't have to worry too much about sorting around everywhere. Skywatch, again, is a nice palette cleanser, but I really never ran it, and so I can't say as an expert or not on this whether it's really that efficient. And then the salt mines, I did run it a little bit in the beginning. I don't recommend it again just because of how things take time and take time and take time. Now, if you're on your Titan, it's fine. If you're on your Titan, you can get really fast runs because you again build up Roaring Flames, pop your super, shoot through the immunity bubble. You can do that on most of these shielded bosses in any of these runs. So that's a good recommendation. If you're Titan and you want to kind of have a palette cleanser, I would take Salt Mines over Skywatch on a Titan. And then of course, even on Skywatch on your Titan, you can probably pop the boss's immunity shield and push him as well using the Roaring Flames glitch that's out there right now. As far as for the Conflux goes, again, I would never run that. And I don't know what the drop rate is on the Conflux because I haven't, but I would imagine Salt Mines is probably like a 10 to 15 on average. Again, I didn't really get too deep in the weeds on that one. My preferred ones were K1, Creation, Skywatch was last, but Caldera was the one that I would run between these 3. I would really go K1 Logistics, Creation, Caldera, K1, Creation, Caldera in that loop. And so that's kind of the life that I lived for the last few weeks, the last week and a half or so. I think it was like maybe 10 days on my grind that I really spent trying to go from that 400 to 450 because it got really accelerated once I figured out the new gear power change. Once you have all new gear, how fast the drops actually come once you go through the gear and the gear cycle. And I didn't psych myself out thinking, oh, I have got a drought, I'm going to go back to using my old stuff. I've stuck with it. The new gear worked, and I got, like I said, really early to 450. I would have gotten it 2 days before if I didn't get super unlucky with a bunch of duplicate drops. So instead of having like a 10-day grind, I would have gotten from 400 to 450 in like 7 days. And I wasn't putting in like 16-hour days. I was only maybe able to eke out about an 8-hour day on my longer days. So it's not like I was putting in huge numbers to get to the point where I was getting from 400 to 450. But Some people do, and that's fine. If you want to, if you have 12, 16 hours to, eat, sleep, and breathe all day long, the mines, and you do it with the sword and you do it your way and you get to 450, I'm not criticizing those people. I'm just saying that there's an easier way and it's more friendly for new people or people that don't have a lot of time. So I would definitely still recommend the new gear for everybody. You don't need a sword. As you can see through all the video that I put on each of these, there was no sword involved and they were all short runs. So you don't have to worry about having swords. You don't have to worry about movement tech. Yes, everybody wants to be as fast and as optimal as possible, and it's fun for some people to burn through these as quickly as they can. And again, I don't want to get in the way of anybody's fun or criticize anybody on how they go about their grind, but definitely don't discourage others from doing the most efficient with what they have available. If they don't have a sword available, or if they're not good at movement tech, if they can't do it on their system, or they're not good with it on a controller, whatever it is that's their limitation, this guide that I've put out today, you can still be able to do that. Everything that I've done here you can do on any system with any input device without any additional tech. It's just good old regular mechanics that were intended in the game for the most part. Obviously there was some bugs and stuff that people take advantage of, and if there's something that you can do without having to have a whole macro to do it, go for it. But otherwise, if you have any additional questions on any of these runs, or if you're getting stumped somewhere, feel free to drop me a comment below, and I try to get to all my comments as soon as I can. Thank you again to all my new subscribers from my previous videos. I've seen a large influx of people over the last few weeks that are also interested in this 450 grind, and I'm glad to have other contemporaries, along the way, people that are also going through that same experience. Initially, I thought that this was going to be a super dead season, but for me as a content creator, I've actually seen a lot more activity in this season than I have in prior seasons. So I don't know if that's good for the game overall, the way that the player population is, but the people that are playing the game right now are definitely more engaged than they have been in the past few seasons, especially, in some of the middle seasons before Heresy and after the final shape. So it's good to see that there's a lot of activity of people that are actually playing the game. They're actually playing it, and they're playing it intently, and we'll see how that goes once they fix the drops and fix a lot of the grind for people in Ash and Iron, and hopefully that brings people back and they can enjoy the grind a little bit better and enjoy getting the tier 5 drops. Everybody should be able to see how awesome the tier 5 armor and weapons are. Like I've said in other videos, I've replaced all of my armor from my raids and dungeons. I've replaced all of my good weapons. So many gobble weapons have gone and just been turned to dust because I don't have any room in my vault. So please, more vault space, like 200 more slots minimum in Renegades. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next video.